Hi everyone, it's me Roberta. I'm back. Today is December 29th and it's been 9 days since I gave birth to my son on December 20th. So he's over here laying next to me sleeping. But this is basically a video on my labor and delivery story. And I made sure I wrote down notes because it was crazy. It was the most rewarding experience. It wasn't what I planned. It didn't go as I planned, but I'm very happy with how everything worked out. So I'll just get right into it. My last video, if you saw my last video, it was a quick video I did on my cell phone when I was heading to the hospital on December 19th. It was Friday, December 19th. That morning, around 4 a.m., I started feeling contractions and I couldn't sleep, so I was up at 4 a.m. just watching TV, tracking the contractions. They were like 10 minutes apart, lasting for only like 40 seconds. So nothing serious, but you know, I knew something was different. So I called into work that day and I got, dressed up. I got my makeup. I did my hair and my makeup. And it was around 11 o'clock. I was talking to one of my friends who was at work, and she was like, Roberta, you need to go to the hospital. What are you doing? I'm like, I don't need to go to the hospital yet. At that point, my contractions were like 6 minutes apart, and they were lasting like a minute each, but my water hadn't broken. So I was just like, I'm going to labor as much as I can at home. And as I'm talking to my friend on the phone about how I don't need to go to the hospital, I feel some leakage down my leg. I'm like, whoa. So I tried to walk to the bathroom and I felt another gush. And no, I'm not peeing on myself. I know this is amniotic fluid. So I call my husband. He picks me up, and that's where the video left off at. It was like 11:45 and we're heading to the hospital. So at 12 o'clock I was at the hospital. I went straight to triage. And what the nurse did there, she checked me to make sure it was amniotic fluid. And when she was checking me, she noticed that it was just a leak. It wasn't a full, it was just, my sac was just ruptured. My water hadn't fully broken. So she went ahead and broke it for me the rest of the way. So then there was another gush of fluid. And then she went ahead and checked to see how far along I was. I was 4 centimeters. So she was just like, all right, we're going to go ahead and admit you into the hospital. You're going to have a baby. I was like, wow. So, like I mentioned in my last videos, I did test positive for GBS, which is group beta strep. So they had to hook me up to an IV right away for antibiotics. But it was only for like 15 minutes. And after they hooked me up to the IV, I was up walking around, doing what I needed to do. After my water fully broke, my contractions got, closer together. But they were around 4 minutes then, and they were longer. They were like a minute and a half long. So I definitely felt like things were progressing, things were going good. My mom and my sister showed up to the hospital. So it was my mom, my sister, and Glenn there with me. And, I'm just laboring. And it was crazy. I tried walking around. I had to stop to just breathe. It was getting intense. I was bouncing on the ball, the medicine ball as much as I can. And then, but they were getting so close together, and they were very painful. To me, they were very painful. My mom was in the hospital room like, you just started. It can't be that bad. I'm like, to me, they were painful. So I went into the jacuzzi tub to try to, relax myself. And between contractions, I was fine. But during the contractions, it hurt so much. And I was so tired because I'd been up till since 4 a.m. So it was around 4 or 5 o'clock. The nurse came back in. She was just like, let's give you a check. And she checked me, and I was still at 4 centimeters. And it had been 4 or 5 hours since I got into the hospital. So at that point, I was just like, I'm tired. I'm in so much pain. Let's do the epidural. And if you guys had watched any of my videos before, you knew I really wanted to go natural. But, hold on a second. Okay, sorry. I really wanted to go natural, but I was just so tired and I was in so much pain. So they went ahead and gave me the epidural, and oh my gosh, girl, I was like in heaven. Once that thing, it kicked in really fast, and once it did kick in, I was just relaxed. I was able to sleep. I was just like, oh, I don't mind having more kids after this. This is not that bad. Whereas before the contractions, I was just like, I'm never doing this again. I'm done. I'm done. So the epidural kicked in, and they checked me like within the hour, and I had already progressed to 6 centimeters. So my midwife was already there. The nurse was there. They were telling me how, sometimes the epidural is just enough to calm your body down so that you can start dilating. And that's what happened. So, I had the epidural, I was talking to my mom and my sister, relaxing, and we ended up falling asleep. It was around midnight that they checked me again. Let me make sure I'm still on track. Yeah. So around midnight, they checked me, they checked me between the epidural and midnight, but around midnight, my midwife came in. They were like, hey, it looks like you're stuck at 8 centimeters. I had been at 8 centimeters for like a couple of hours by then, and, I hadn't progressed. So they wanted to give me a little bit of Pitocin, and, I really didn't want the Pitocin because I've heard, it can put the baby in distress with the heartbeat because the contractions are longer and stronger with the Pitocin. But she said that she was only going to give me 1 milliliter of Pitocin out of the 40 that was available. And, they'll make sure they keep watching the heartbeat to see if he has any changes. So they gave me the Pitocin, and I started dilating again. His heartbeat didn't drop. It stayed steady. So that was good. So, and I obviously didn't feel any of the contractions because I had already had that epidural. So that was fine. But another concern that they had was, okay, so around, the other concern that she had was that he hadn't dropped into my pelvis. He was already head down, but he wasn't low enough for me to start pushing. So around 5 a.m., I was at 10 centimeters, but he wasn't super low yet. So she was just like, even though you had 10 centimeters, we may still have to do a C-section if he doesn't drop down lower. And like in other cases, if I hadn't gotten an epidural, I could be walking around, I could be up, but I was already in the bed, couldn't move. So what we decided to do was prop me all the way up in the bed, like sitting up, and I kept moving left to right. They would put pillows underneath me just to get him lower. And so I don't remember exactly what time. I know at 5 a.m. I started pushing. So it was a little bit before 5 a.m. They came in and said that I might have a C-section, and I was so upset because I was just like, I definitely don't want to have a C-section. For me to be at 10 centimeters, to go through all that I just went through, got the epidural, got the Pitocin, and then do a C-section, that's not what I wanted. So at 5 a.m. I was ready to push, and I was pushing, and what they discovered was, another thing happened, was that he was face up. So most babies, when they're delivered, they are head down, but they're facing the ground so that they're delivered. This part comes out first, but he was facing up towards the ceiling, which made it really difficult to push him out, especially with me having the epidural, not feeling any of the contractions. So they were telling me push during contractions. I couldn't feel anything. And then they were like, oh, push like you have to use the restroom, like you're trying to poop. Excuse my language. Push like you're trying to use the restroom. I couldn't even tell where my butt was. Like, I was just like, am I pushing the right way? I had no idea. So then she was just like, well, we're going to have to use a vacuum. I was just like, I really don't want to use a vacuum. I want to do this. So I just started pushing. Whenever I caught my breath, I pushed. I didn't care if I didn't feel it, a contraction or not. I was going to push him out. Sorry, my camera cut out. My mom was up holding my head up for me. She was on my right side. Glenn, who I told him I wanted Glenn up by my face because I didn't want him to see anything down there, but he was holding my right leg and he saw everything. And he, you know what, he's gonna have to live with it. I don't care. He saw everything. And I had so many nurses around me because he was, at that point, I was pushing, and he was stuck in the birth canal. So, there was a bunch of nurses in the room. There was a doctor in the room. And I just, you know, had to find strength somewhere. My mom was praying with me, and I did it. I pushed him out. So, whew. He was born at 6:30 in the morning on December 20th. And it was crazy because he was in the birth canal so long. Also, while I was pushing, I got a fever. My temperature went up over 101. It was really high. So because my temperature went up, his temperature went up. So usually, you know, you take him out, you put him straight to chest. They wanted to go check him out, and he wasn't breathing a little bit when he was born too. So they took him away right away. Glenn went with them. You know, they were just in a different corner of the room. They cleaned him up, checked him out. He was fine. Born 7 pounds, 12 ounces, 21 inches long. My midwife was telling me he's going to grow shorter because his head was elongated. Let me tell you guys, my poor baby looked like an alien because he was stuck in that birth canal for so long. His head shape was like so long and oval, but he was out. He was healthy. He was out, and his head's normal now. It just shrunk back down. So he might be a little bit shorter than 21 inches, but at birth he was 21 inches long. And so he was gone for maybe like 5 minutes. She did have to give me a little cut down there. I wish I knew how to pronounce this word. It's episiotomy. She cut down there, not very much. When I asked her how many stitches I was going to have, she's just like, it's just going to be one string, don't worry. I was just like, that wasn't a question. I want to know how many stitches. But she deflected somehow. But, you know, he came to me. He was away for 5 minutes. They brought him to me. He latched on right away. I was able to breastfeed a little bit. It hurt so bad, but I'll talk about that later. And, you know, and an hour later, after they took out the epidural thing, I was up walking around feeling great. And I'm just happy it went that route and I didn't have to have a C-section. And, you know, my body did what it needed to do to dilate. And, you know, there was complications, but he's happy, he's healthy, he's here. I'm not pregnant anymore. I feel like I've been pregnant all of 2014. And I'm just happy he was here for Christmas. You know, that was very special to have him here for his first Christmas. But it's just been crazy. So I'm sorry this video is so late. It's been a wild week. He's exactly 9 days old today. It's been really great. I'm really happy. So if you guys have any questions about anything, just leave them in the comments below. I'll try to snip in a little video of him when he was awake earlier today. Because now he's sleeping. He's over here sleeping. But that's it. That's my labor and delivery story. So thanks so much for watching. Talk to you guys later. Bye. Isaac.
No, okay.
Say hi to the people, Isaac.
No.
He's taking a little nap. He just finished eating.
Bonjour, I never see my